Okay, let's go back to chapter 2, verse 3. So we have discovered, just to put this in a capsule form, we've discovered that the appear in verse 3, then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. We have discovered that the appear is a verb, and the sat is a verb. And we've discovered that the subject is the divided tongues. So there's object, he's describing, divided tongues, made an appearance, and it did two things. It appeared, obviously, and sat. So the emphasis seems to be, the climactic emphasis seems to be on the city. So the idea that something came into the room and sat on each believer, and again he's trying to describe what it was like, what he can't describe. You're describing what you can't describe, which is the fullness of the Spirit, the person of Jesus coming to live within you. So we have described that in terms of sat, which is a person of great authority, coming to sit in a place of great authority, and every time he describes Jesus ascending to the right hand of the Father and sitting at the right hand of the Father, this is the word that's used. So he's setting up a parallel between what's going on up there and what's going on down here. Now that is really significant because you realize that idea, the parallel idea, what's going on up in the heavenlies right this minute is taking place down here. That idea is all over the Scriptures. I mean, it's everywhere through Jesus' teaching and the epistles as well. For instance, teach us to pray, Jesus, he said. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in. So what's going on up there is to go on down here. The will of God there is to take place here. That's one example. Right in our passage, you have an example of that parallel. The idea that we talked about last week, which was verse 2, the sound from heaven. Remember, again, the Greek word for sound is echoes, which is where we get our word echo. So he's saying, oh, don't you know what's going on? What's going on up there is echoing down here. So he describes, even in the sound from heaven, is about what's going on up there. He sets up the parallel beginning there. So the echo, it takes place up there and comes down and echoes off of me. So I'm a dispenser, a flow of what's happening up there. Now he says, let me describe to you what's happening up there. What's happening up there is the physically raised from the dead Jesus ascends to the right hand of the Father and sits and is crowned King of kings and Lord of lords of the kingdom of God. That's what's going on up there. And at the same moment that happens up there, guess what takes place down here? The kingdom that is within you. Oh, the King comes, the Spirit of Jesus descends and sits on the throne of your life and is crowned King over the kingdom that is within you. So a parallel is established. Now, you might say, as some of you do, let's get practical. What does that mean? Nice idea. So what? What does it matter? It's a radical concept. Now, the radical concept, the practical aspects of this radical concept is found in the sitting idea is that one of them is that in verse 2, there is the idea of a corporate filling. For instance, if you look at verse 2 again, he says, it filled the whole house where they were sitting. He's talking about the sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. So you've got this idea of, it just saturated the whole place. So, well, how many were there? Don't care. How many were in the room? Don't care. Were there any that weren't included? No. The whole house, the whole place, it's a corporate kind of thing. Now, I've always wanted to be in a service where that happened. If I had my choice, it'd be this coming Sunday. We'd gather together, and whoa, there would be a corporate filling. And it would just, God would just come and just saturate this place, and it would just be like a fog, and we'd all just, whoa, and you could just cut it with a knife, and and the service would just go on and on. You probably think it does anyhow. But it would just go on, and we just wouldn't quit, and the cars out here would stop, and people would get out and come in and wonder why they came, and people would get saved, the altars would be lined, and we would just probably have no singing and just lots of preaching, and it would just go on and on and on and on, and we'd just, whoa, just be a corporate filling. I've always wanted to be in on that. I've never experienced that equal to what I think this was. Want to? Oh, before I die, please. Want to, but just haven't. Now, when you move to verse 3, you'll note the language changes, and he's not dealing with corporate filling. He's dealing in verse 3 with individual filling. Did you see it? There appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. One sat upon each. That's phenomenal. Now, the divided tongue, if you have the old King James Version, the divided tongue, the old King James Version had the word cloven tongue. Cloven tongue, which I thought was something the cows ate in the field, but I guess not. The actual Greek word is the idea of split or separated. So the idea is that there's this object. See, what he's describing is this object. Again, however you want to picture this in your mind is okay with me. I don't care. You can't picture it wrong. So you got this tongue of fire, as it were, that came into this room. And it's one object. And this thing breaks into pieces. And one piece, as he describes it again, all this is Old Testament imagery, understand? One piece went over and sat on every individual, single person. So it's not a fill the whole house. It's, whoa, it's on me, brother. It's an individual thing. Now, again, I've always wanted to be on a corporate filling. So I've been waiting around on the church. Well, I hope the church gets right, so we can have a corporate filling this coming Sunday. So we all come together on Sunday morning, but there's not a corporate filling. Well, who's to blame for that? Well, probably some hypocrites in the church. Well, who's the hypocrite? Probably you, so we get rid of you. Oh, good. Now we can have a corporate filling. We come the next Sunday. Whoa, it doesn't happen. Well, who's to blame? Where's the hypocrite this time? Oh, must be you. So we got rid of you. Good. Now we're down to just, now we're going to have a corporate filling next Sunday. Whoa, we come. No corporate filling. Well, who's to blame this time? Oh, you. Get out of here. So we get rid of you. Now we're just down to you and me. There's only two of us. We come next Sunday, ready for a corporate filling. Good night. It doesn't happen this time either. Must be you. Get rid of you. Now we're down to me. Where do you go with that? See, if I have to wait for everybody in the church to be what they ought to be, oh, brother, that ain't going to happen. Why? Because we want people in here who aren't the way they ought to be. That's the whole purpose. And if you start going at people, well, we can't have them in here, why they're not what they ought to be, then before you get done, you're going to get rid of me too. So let's not go down that road. So my conclusion is this. I'm not waiting on the church. Woo! Hey, I'm not waiting on anybody anymore. Because why? I can move. I'm moving from verse 2 into verse 3, which is the individual. See, I can be filled with Jesus and woo! Regardless of what you do. You can be miserable, sit there, you can pick your nose or whatever you want to do, and hey, we'll just go with it. But I can be filled with the Spirit. I can be rejoicing. I can be on fire. I can be in love with Jesus. You don't. I'm not going to let you dictate how I feel and what's going on in my life. So you can come and be deader than a doornail, but excuse me while I have a good time. Okay. Oh, I like that. So, that's verse 3. It's the individual filling. And we don't have to wait on each other to line up. So that's one of the phenomenal, practical aspects of what's going on. Now, let me give you another practical aspect. I don't know how you picture this in your mind. Here's the heavens. Here's the throne of God sitting at the right hand. Here's another throne at the right hand, and Jesus is sitting there. How do you picture that? I can tell you what you taught me. When I say you, I mean the church. Here's what the church taught me. Maybe you weren't taught this. Probably you were, though. I was taught that Jesus was physically, what did I say? Physically raised from the dead. He was physically raised from the dead. That's what you taught. Now, I came to the people that were teaching me that and said, well, you don't really mean it. What you mean is he was spiritually raised from the dead. His spirit raised from the dead, but his body was dead like everybody else, rotted, and they buried it. Oops, stinks. Now, see, he didn't physically raise from the dead. He spiritually, his spirit soared into the heavens, and he'll live forever spiritually. You said no. He was physically raised from the dead. In fact, you said his disciples went into the tomb, and there were the grave clothes like they were wrapped around the body. They went over and poked on him, and they went flat because there was no body in there. And that his body was gone. And they never did find the body. Why? Because the body itself had been physically raised from the dead. So it wasn't in the grave. It was physically raised from the dead. Therefore, he was physically raised from the dead. You were really strong on that. I said, well, no. What you mean is Jesus will be alive as long as we keep him in our memories. So we'll sing songs about him and talk about him every Sunday, and that'll keep him alive. You said, well, no. You said he's not alive because we talk about him. We talk about him because he's alive. Come on. And if we never mention the name of Jesus ever again, he will still be alive, physically raised from the dead. So I said, well, okay, I'm buying in. So Jesus, you convinced me that Jesus was physically raised from the dead. Then I began to study the New Testament and found out, good night, do you know what happened at the end of Luke? I just love this. I don't know why I didn't know this. But if you go to Luke, this is so wonderful, you may want to read it. I don't know. Luke chapter 24, and we talked about this before, but Luke chapter 24, it's the last chapter of Luke. Jesus is raised from the dead. And there's the Emmaus Road scene and all that, and he finally appears and makes himself known to them. And then they run to Jerusalem, which was, 7 miles? So you never know when you're going to need to go on a jog, so keep it fit. So there they are. They're in Jerusalem now. They've all come to in the upper room in verse 36. They're all in the upper room, and these guys have come and said, whoa, he's alive, man. And in the upper room, verse 36, as they said these things, Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said to them, peace to you. And they were terrified and frightened and supposed they'd seen a ghost. And you can imagine. A ghost, a spirit, a ghost. Verse 38, he said to them, why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Now these are the words of the resurrected Lord. Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a ghost, a spirit, does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have. Jesus claimed in his resurrection to have flesh and bones. And then he said, whoa, I'm hungry. You got any hot dogs? And he sat down and ate hot dogs with them. And had a digestive system. What do you want to do with that? Physically raised from the dead. Physical digestive system. They physically could touch him. He lived with them, according to Acts chapter 1, verse 3, for 40 solid days. He traveled with them. That was what's convinced them. See, if Jesus shows up, well, was that him? I don't know. Wow. Ooh. See, were you asleep? No, I took pills. Wow. Well, is he? Isn't he? I don't know. But when you come, 40 solid days, man. You're not going to fool all of us for 40 solid days. I mean, we're not all on pills for 40 solid days. Come on. 40 solid days, we're eating with him, we're sleeping with him, we're walking with him, he's teaching us, we whack him on the back, hand doesn't go through. 40 solid days, 40 solid days. And it says they were absolutely, they called it infallible proofs of the 40 solid days. Do you know we have more proof, historical proof, I said historical proof, that Jesus is physically raised from the dead than we do historical proof that George Washington was the first president of the United States. And yet we'll accept George Washington won't even question it. And we have more historical proof that Jesus is physically raised from the dead. So, you convinced me and I said, I'm buying in. Jesus is physically raised from the dead. Now, you not only told me, this is the church taught me this, Jesus is physically raised from the dead. Okay, he physically had a digestive system. We physically were with him 40 days and 40 nights. And then at the end of those 40 days, you taught me, and it's in Acts chapter 1, that Jesus physically ascended. And here was a bunch of disciples hanging around with physical eyeballs watching a physical Jesus who's physically ascending and disappears behind a physical cloud. Whoa. That's what you taught me. And then, on top of that, you taught me, hey, he's coming back physically the second time. And we need to be ready. So you taught me physically raised from the dead, physically ascended, physically coming back. What about in between there? I propose to you, if he's physically raised from the dead, physically ascended, and he's physically coming back, that in between those two times, he's physical. And that right now, he has the attachment, a raised body, no different, no question. The body you're going to have when you're raised from the dead, no question about that. He passed through the walls, that's true. Sat down at the table and ate, that's true. Had a digestive system, that's true. Well, how could he pass through the walls and still sit down and eat? Well, come on, you've watched Star Trek, you can figure that out. Anyhow, here he is, the physically raised from the dead Jesus, who now is in the heavenly realms and is physically sitting at the right hand of the Father. Now picture this. Here's God the Father. Here's a throne by his right hand. And Jesus is physically sitting there. Oh, by the way, theology teaches us. This was back when I was a student studying by candlelight because we didn't have electricity. And we had to take, there were 3 theology books by Horton Wiley we had to study. This is old. He was Mr. Theologian of our whatever. So 3. And in his theology, here's what he taught us. If you get to heaven, the only God you'll ever see is Jesus, because he's the only one with a body. God the Father you can't see. Why? He's spirit. Holy Spirit you can't see. Why? Spirit. The only one you'll be able to see with your eye is Jesus, because he's the one with the body. He still has this attachment of the body, sitting at the right hand of the Father. Now, here's the concept. I want you to get this concept. Here's a throne. Jesus is sitting there. That's our word, remember? Describing the fullness of the Spirit. We're going someplace with this. It's taken a while, but stick with me. So he's sitting there. Now, he technically is Lord, King over that throne. Well, it's his throne. He can get up from the throne and say, you know, the legs are too long. Cut them off. So the legs are shortened. Why? It's his throne. He can say, you know, not enough cushions. Want more cushions on my throne. Hey! And that can happen. Why? It's his throne. If he wants more cushions, he can have more cushions. Why? Because he's Lord, King over the throne. We understand that. But that isn't the emphasis. See, the emphasis is not he's boss over the throne. The emphasis is he's sitting on the throne, and he's exerting his power and authority from that throne. So the throne is the platform from which he exerts his authority into the kingdom. Now, if that's happening up there, he's sitting on this throne and exerting his authority from the throne he sits on. Oh, the parallel, the parallel, the parallel. As Jesus is sitting there in the heavenlies, reigning from the throne, at the same moment, the Spirit of Jesus has come and is sitting on me. That's the passage. And I'm his throne. Well, he's my boss. Yeah, but that's not the emphasis. I'm the throne upon which he sits, which means he's not just Lord over me, he is ruling from me. Oh, you got to get this. And my life has become the platform by which he exerts his phenomenal authority and power into my world. So I become the place of authority because he's sitting there. Wow. Now we're talking about Christianity. Normal, average, Christianity. Like, no big deal. The normal thing. The normal thing of Christianity is, oh, Jesus has come to sit on me. As he's sitting up there, he's sitting on me, and he's reigning over, yeah, but no, reigning from my life. So the whole emphasis of the passage is, he is exerting his authority and power in my life. Now, the minute that happened in our passage, what took place? Impossible stuff. They begin to talk in 15 different dialects that they didn't know. Well, how'd they do that? He's sitting. And as you begin to go through the book of Acts, you get this impossible kinds of stuff taking place in the lives of the believers that just shock their world. Now, I want to propose to you that if that's true, and that same thing happens in my life, that he, as he's sitting there, now is sitting here, and I'm the throne, and he's exerting his power and authority from me, the throne that he sitteth on, and he's exerting it into my world. Shouldn't impossible kinds of stuff be taking place in my world? Now, this is really dangerous to talk about, and I'm sorry. It's really dangerous to talk about. Because immediately you think in terms of, well, you think I ought to be doing miracles. Why are we all wrapped up in the spectacular, the magic trick stuff? Come on. Hey, I'm not against miracles. God can do miracles through you if he wants to. I don't care. If he wants to sit on my throne and zap the world with miracles, it's fine with me. I'm not the one that dictates what the impossible stuff is. And I know that in the book of Acts, he did all these phenomenal miracles, and he's capable of doing that now and does do. I can tell you miracles, man. I mean, look at this place. This place is a miracle. I mean, right down to an absolute, total, absolute miracle of God. There's no question about that. God did something impossible in relationship to this building and us being here. We know that. So that's a miracle. I'm for miracles. But see, there's miracles and then there's miracles. See, we want the, well, let me give you an example. For instance, it is impossible, absolutely impossible, you know this, absolutely impossible to love everybody. You can't do it. I can tolerate everybody. I'm capable of doing that. If I don't have to be around them much. I can tolerate it. You sit on that side, I sit on this side. Tolerate. See, I can say hi as I pass you by. I can tolerate you. But to love you? Not everybody. There are people I love. But not everybody. Can't love everybody. It's impossible. But, see, I've been taught you got to love me if you want to go to heaven. Oh, brother. Which wasn't the truth. I can love you and go straight to hell. But anyhow, that's what I've been taught. I've been taught that. So you got to love everybody, but I can't love everybody. But I got to love everybody, but I can't love everybody. Oh, brother. I got to love everybody. Well, so if you can't love everybody, but you got to love everybody, what do? You fake it. So what we've done is we have developed what I call grit your teeth love, which is the fake thing. And the interesting thing about gritting your teeth is it's an automatic grin. So here we are down at the church, loving everybody. And it's so fakey, isn't it? And I don't have time to get into this, but hey, so we're all... You're sitting in my seat. What would it do if Jesus would come and sit on me and do something impossible like love everybody? Would that shock my son-in-law? Whoa! Wow! What would that... That's what moved their world. Let me give you another. Now, you know, good and well, you know this. Come on, admit this. You can't live above sin. Have you ever tried it? You can't. You can't be what you ought to be. I mean, come on, you always mess up. I mean, can you understand, here's what I'm supposed to be. This is the good, righteous Christian life. Oh, brother. And you got to be that. So it's such, you're trying to be that. You want to be that. You strain to be that. You give it all you got to be that. You strain to be that. Oh, it's so difficult. It's so hard. You know how terrible that is on your nerves and on your, ooh, don't, I didn't hit him. I counted to 10. I bit my lip. Just, it's such a strain. Every fifth Sunday, you ought to just take it off and go get drunk. I mean, whoa. Just to relax your nerves a little bit. Because you just can't, you can't maintain that thing. I mean, that's such a, impossible. It's absolutely impossible to live above sin. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. It's just impossible. Wouldn't it be something if Jesus would come and sit on me and do something impossible like live a holy life? My wife would look at me and say, "What? What's wrong with you?" Jesus sitting on me, I can't help it. Wouldn't that be something? That's our passage. That's our passage. Whew. Went to the doctor. It's about 5 years ago. Physical thing. Get a physical. See how I'm doing. My wife thought I was going to die or something, so I had to get this physical. Anyhow, went and doctor checked me all out. Came up at the end of the session. He said, everything looks good. We'll get some blood tests back and so forth, and we'll let you know how that goes, but everything looks good. He said, I would have one word of advice. I said, okay, I'm open to that. He said, you need to gain 10 pounds. I said, what? He said, you need to gain 10 pounds. I said, you're, what? You need to gain 10 pounds. I said, you're kidding me. No, you need to gain 10 pounds. I said, Doc, I've been working like a dog to keep 10 pounds off. And you want me to gain 10 pounds? That's ridiculous. I said, what makes you think that? He said, I've got this chart. Now, this is an intelligent man. The reason I know that is because he writes his writing. He says, I've got this chart. And according to my chart, for your age, your height, male, you should weigh this, and you're 10 pounds under this. I said, Doc, where did you get that chart? Well, he said, we went all over the country, and we interviewed everybody who's your age and your height and is male. And we came up with the average weight of your age, your height, male in the United States, and this is what you should weigh. I said, Doc, and I'm not coming back to you ever again. I mean, you're intelligent and you bought that. What if everybody my age and my height weighed 5,000 pounds? You're going to say, you should weigh that, man. Why? Because everybody else does. Well, that's stupid. Isn't that stupid? I was explaining this to a business friend of mine who was over a factory, a production factory, making products. And he said, in the business world, we call that dumbing down. I said, I never heard of that. Dumbing down. I said, what do you mean by that? Well, he said, in the business world, we're making this product, and we have quality control. Here's the quality. This is the quality standard. We want all of our products to meet this quality. Right there's the quality. Right there. But we never meet that quality. So you know what we do? Yay! We met our quality! You don't suppose we've done that, have we? Have we? This is what you want to be? Well, you can't be that. So we say, well, you can't be what you ought to be. Well, yeah. Well, at least I didn't take a gun and blow his head off. What if Jesus came and sat on you? What if this wasn't about struggle and try? What if this was a That's what he's describing here. Now, the downer of that is you wouldn't get any credit for it. Because we'd all say, whoa, Jesus is sitting on you, isn't he? You no good, lousy person, you. But Jesus is sitting on you, isn't he? Yeah, he's sitting on you. And he'd get all the praise and all the glory. And we'd have to constantly say, oh, look who's sitting on me. Look who's sitting on me. That's the passage. So he's describing what happened to them when the outside God came to get inside of them. He does it in Old Testament imagery. There's this sound thing which is, the heart of God and his nature just echoing off of me. Just, I'm reflecting from me. And then turns around and talks about the parallel of him sitting and his authority from him. Now, I don't know, but I would imagine in your life like mine, I've got some impossible situations. Jesus, you want to exert a little authority here? Let's pray together. Jesus, I guess what I'm afraid of is that you want to exert your authority, and I don't really need to even ask you to. But could it be that I've been so filled with myself and sitting on the throne of my own life for so long that I get in your way? And that I'm not willing to be a vessel that you fill and do something through. I want to invite you tonight in a new way, Jesus, in a deeper way, to come and readjust anything on the throne of my living that you want to, and sit on me. If you want more cushions, if you want less cushions, if you want to cut my legs off, however you want to adjust me, that you could comfortably sit in your presence in the middle of my life, and you could begin to flow yourself through me to change my world. I'm not asking you to make everything like I want it, because I'm not in charge of this. I'm asking you to sit on me and demonstrate yourself, that you might be seen in my life. Thank you for such an opportunity. In Jesus' name.